Good morning. Good morning from Australia. Hope you're all well. Hello to my fellow Australians, Melburnians, wherever you might be. Is this the first weekend stream I've done for the year? I think I did one prior. Did I do one last week? Uh, anyway, I don't know unless I check my wall calendar, which I'm not going to do now. Yes, let's get straight into the topic of the video. It was inspired by a conversation I had with a group of guys yesterday on my Discord, which I recorded, and I'll be releasing it probably this coming week, on my chat channel. So stay tuned to that. I'll put a notification in my community tab. As always, let me know if the audio or video isn't coming up, so I'll try and pay attention to the stream. But if you're here live and you would like to ask me a question and you're here live, you're one of these people here chatting while I'm talking, make sure that if you would like to ask me a question directly, that you put 3 brightly colored emojis or icons. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. If you would like to ask me a question, do what Arvero did. You put these 3 little circles before your question if you want it directed to me. Arvero says, what I need and what I want are 2 different animals. Monk life offers me what a woman can't, growing old in complete serenity. If that is what you truly want, and you're not stressed out, you're not annoyed or angry at women, you're not frustrated at the world, you can sleep well, your life is completely tranquil, right? And balanced. I respect any person who wants to do whatever they want, as long as they're honest about it. Again, even if you're not honest about it, you can do what you want. It's your life. But again, 2 things. If you want to ask me a question, put 3 circles, emojis next to your question, so I can just see on the stream it's a question for me. And also, yeah, whatever you decide to do, there are no answers in life, guys. There are only choices. That's it. We are all desperately trying to agree with one size fits all answers. And it's kind of the Bible now of relating, since we've gotten rid of a lot of social structures that used to hold our hand and chaperone us through dating, social life, polite pleases and thank yous. We've stripped all that away. Whatever you might think of religion, at least there was an organizing principle for the average person who has no philosophical interest. They're not intellectually curious. They kind of just, they want to have their beer, go to work, have 2.5 kids. They like fast cars, and, they're slaves to their emotions, just, things like that. So it was a good way, a very base philosophy for people who really aren't that interested in creating their own philosophy. And so I think it was very useful, religion, apart from the arguments of what's real, what wasn't. Functionally, I think it did a lot more good than everyone here who thinks they're very clever, but they're someone miserable living alone at home on their own, not having any companionship, pretending they know everything, yet their lives are 10 times worse mentally, socially. How's that? Why? Your parents, your grandparents were so dumb? Look at their lives. Talk to them. Look at the evidence through photographs and what people in that generation did. I'm not romanticizing it, but just compare the quality of writing in those days compared to the quality of writing and speech these days. Compare the sanity and the relationship to reality that people have today compared to people's sanity and their relationship to reality in times gone by. Yes, you can point to extremes. There are always extremists. But I think the extremists and the subjective people are much more prevalent in the center of society today. Back then, they weren't really allowed that easily into the center of society. They were permitted on the outskirts where they really couldn't damage the center. But now they're in the center, and the sane, rational people who could further society are more on the extremes. They're the outliers. But anyway, I hope I speak properly today. I've made a conscious effort these last, I'd say, 6 to 8 months, especially since I got my teeth done, and I've got the final operation just happened a couple of weeks ago, and so I'm still getting used to my final teeth. I had my front three teeth replaced, and so I'm much more conscious about speaking properly. That's just a personal goal for me. Anyway, back to the topic of the video. The topic of the video is, what do I need in my life and not what others need? So essentially, I'm asking the question, what I need in my life and not what others say to me, what answers other people offer. And I think there's a combination of people being intellectually lazy and intellectually irresponsible, and also the consensus of the tribe convinces you, since everyone's agreeing and nodding to the same thing, that we don't want to be the outlier to the tribe, to be cast out. Because the thing is, if you have the courage to say, whatever everyone says for me to do is not working, but I don't have the answers, it seems irrational to the stable-minded and mature guy to say it's irrational to go away from the tribe. Everyone's saying, we're all surviving here. We're alive. You want to go off here on your own and you don't even know where you're going and what you're doing. You want to create your own map? You're a fool. It's kind of like in times gone by where they thought if you sail too far to the horizon, you drop off the edge of the ocean and into an abyss. And so there was a lot of fear because you don't really have the answers. You don't know what you're doing. You're just trusting an instinct. And a lot of rational people say, well, that's feelings. You trust logic. Logic is, we were alive yesterday and we'll do the same thing today and we'll stay alive. And it's rational. It's logic. You will. But what if the quality of being alive day after day is worse and worse and worse and worse, and you can't ignore it? Again, your choice. So I was having a discussion with the guys last night, and yeah, you know why? Because in the male self-help space, there's a lot of one size fits all, what you need, what you should want, especially when it's got to do with a high value woman, say, right? So, and we're having a discussion, like when you start to realize who you are and what you really want, like when you're alone, what do you value? What do you really value when you're on your own? And then you're searching for someone who's compatible, right? Or you're open to someone who's compatible. All these guys, they give you a cookie cutter that she's supposed to have a low body count. She's got to be a great cook. She's got to be, all this stuff is like a nice to have. I get it. But really, what are the deal breakers without which there's no way you can get along with the person, right? Do you really need a chef in the kitchen? Or would you really appreciate it if she was? Do you really want someone with a 0 body count? And how realistic is it if you get to your 30s, 40s, 50s? Sure, you can if you're rich and, you can mitigate that by having a lot of status and power that a young girl would find attractive. She would feel safe and secure, and, it would satisfy her materialism. But especially, like, some of these things contradict each other. These guys who want a chick with a 0 body count, but they expect her to perform like someone in porn. It's like, really, what do you want and what's realistic? Where are you on the spectrum of, 1%er to here? Where are you on looks from 0 to 10? Where are you on the spectrum between introversion and extroversion? Where are you on the spectrum between gregarious and, being a complete shut-in? Be really honest, and that will tell you need a match in those areas, especially if they are a central part of your life. One question that I think last week was on a similar topic in terms of what one question could you really pay attention to? What sort of things could you pay attention to on a date that are really good questions that could answer a lot of compatibility between you and the other person? And one of the questions was, you ask the other person, describe for me, first of all, you get a sense from the other person whether you enjoy your life. Do you love your life? Are you a person that's always bitter and complaining? And if they're not, one essential question to ask is describe a typical week for you. Because if you can tell they already enjoy their life, this will tell you who they are in their week to week. This is the kind of person you're going to be with. They're not going to change into someone else. They are going to be the person they are from week to week that they're happy with and that they've been conditioned into. And so if they're saying, well, I was always, say you're an introvert, you're a person that likes to stay at home, and they're saying, well, I always travel, I love going out, I love doing this, love doing that. But because they want to be with you, they might find you attractive or appealing or a refreshing change, or they're bored with their extroverted world. This is the thing, the people who are outgoing, they might always be outgoing, but they always need variety. And you, being a complete shutting, the opposite to them, you are a refreshing holiday to them. So you're just variety. You are not compatible. You are variety. You're a holiday they visit, and then when they've had enough time there, they go on another holiday. So you need to be careful about that. But the reason why you ask them, describe your typical week to week, describe what you do during the week, that's an honest question that will give you a direct and honest answer. So if they're doing things through their week to week that really make them happy, and you look at them as like, that sounds like hell. I couldn't do that every week. I could do that for her once in a while, but she needs that all the time, every week, day to day, if she doesn't have it every 2 or 3 days. Some of you guys think you want a chick who's a nymphomaniac. Trust me, I've dated one in my past. They are terrible. So really look at who you are, how often you need things, how often you're prepared to give, a degree of yourself to the other person, because you do need to meet them halfway. It can't just be all what you want as a guy. Otherwise, just go get a doll. But you need to relate to another human being, which means they're not going to be exactly like you. You are lucky to get sometimes 75% to 80% compatibility with somebody. Finding someone who's like 80% and above, like you're hitting the lottery. You're already hitting the lottery, you're finding sort of a modicum of compatibility. So yeah, I was just having this conversation with the guys about being realistic. And, the question popped up. They talk about these rules in male dating and self-help. What is high value? But then is she high value to me? Or that I'll get validated by the group? A lot of men have gone from getting female validation to getting group validation from their PUA community, MGTOW community, whoever it might be, right? Like, I'm fine talking with any one of them as long as they're mature and they have a very respectable live and let live attitude, rather than trying to religiously convert me or debate with me, to see who's right. I don't need to be right. I need to make my own life right. But yeah. Any questions during the stream? Remember, if you want to ask me a question, put 3 yellow circles or something that resembles a yellow circle. Okay. Let's if you want to ask me a question, guys, super chat me a question and I'll definitely read it during my stream. Otherwise, I'll do my best to answer questions if I notice them during the stream, but make sure you put 3 yellow circles before your question. For instance, Jack Dawes with 3 oranges, orange, yellow, close enough. He says, many times I find myself wondering if my desire to be in a solid relationship is something I need to work towards, a burden that needs to be shed. But there is that continuous conflict. I think rather than trying to, this is my opinion, again, do what you want. There are a lot of guys that say I'm giving guys bad advice. I would say you're already self-aware to recognize that it's a conflict within you. And if you realize that some days are better where you can completely disregard women and you're completely fine. And then other days for no reason, you might be lonely. You would really like female companionship. It would be nice to have someone around. This is why I constantly talk about having very specific values for a person. I often describe that when I had enough of dating the typical way, I closed the door. I did not lock it. I closed the door and forgot about all women except for the one who had the specific key that would open the door. So this door shut. I'm not really paying attention to women. I'm getting on with my life. So you need to find a way, because it already sounds like you're self-aware to kind of know what's going on. You need to find the words or the structure by which you can feel less, what's the word? Not burdened, but I can't think. It's a basic word where you're always reaching for the thing that's not good for you. Like, a fat person reaching for a 12 pack of Krispy Kremes. Um, ah, what's the word? Not drawn. Help me out, guys. Tempted. There's the word. I knew it was a basic one. Here we go. Dingus Fun, thank you for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. If any of you guys want to ask me a question and you want to make sure I read it out, because sometimes I miss questions in the stream, super chat me. He says, or she says, if your life isn't going the way you wanted, you do not need to involve another person in your life. They will leave and you will be more miserable. This is a brilliant observation. The cliche is like, fix yourself before you get in, deal with your own issues. Otherwise, if you don't, later on, when you finally have dealt with your issues, you'll look back and you say, that chick, she was actually pretty good, but I had a lot of crap to figure out myself and I ruined that. It's happened once or twice with me, where you go out on 1 or 2 dates and you just kind of move on to the next person, like you weren't ready for a serious relationship, things like that. So make sure, and I think it's healthy to, in a way, step away after you've been sort of kicked in the stomach by a relationship and you're, disoriented. Just take time off. Everyone says this, is be on your own for a while. Friends, family, hobbies, just, take a breath, man. Don't just go back to what was familiar. And especially if it was dysfunctionally familiar, you're bound to go back to someone who's going to, if you're heartbroken, you're more likely to be drawn to the same kind of person again. So be careful about that. So fix yourself and then go on dates, because then when you have, you'll notice someone else who hasn't dealt with their own issues. It becomes much more apparent because sometimes what happens is that two people who have just been hurt and they're scarred and they just want to monkey branch to feel better to someone else to relieve the pain. This person's a port in the storm. Is that you could regret later, you could have come across a really good person who could be compatible with you, but because of where you were incompatible with your own baseline. So you were so traumatized that you were uncalibrated. You met someone who would have matched when you were fine. You met them when you weren't fine. You were sort of smashed up, right? You met them, and so the real you's not able to sort of be yourself. You're out here, hurt, defensive, fumbling your words, not able to connect properly. And your friends will notice it too. When you're miserable after heartbreak or loss, they're kind of like, oh, we'll leave them alone. We know what they're really like, but humans really distraught, like, we'll just comfort him. We won't say much. So your relationship, even with people who know you, they kind of back off and adjust themselves because your relationship isn't who you are. In the same way, you go meet new people, you could really be just throwing away great chances. So yeah, get yourself right, take a break. Being on your own is pretty good, right? And especially when you're ready for company, it's kind of like a stable mind that's ready for company now. You know what you want. You're able to see a chick that's, no, this isn't where I am. She's not where I am. And I trust my instincts. Whereas when you're hurt, you're drowning and you just want anyone to save you. Any hot mess that's in her own pain will save you and you will save her. And then after a few months, you start getting annoyed at each other because how you leave your cup and how you sniff, how you cough, like all minor things, because you're really not compatible and you just don't want to be honest that you met each other at the worst possible time. Timing is everything, as they say. Sarcastic Bunny says, I found that having a purpose gives meaning. not living for a job kind of thing, but having something that you are mad keen about that you look forward to and build your life around. Yeah. Have something that you look forward to every day, guys. Habits are good. You've heard that, like even the morning routine or whatever it is, but just something that's yours. And don't think, however small it is, one thing is sort of so much better than nothing. Even if you wake up and say, I am just going to look forward to sitting at my coffee table with a cup of coffee and reading the paper, or reading my favorite blog posts, or writing as I do, or doing something, if that's the routine, or going for a walk or something, preferably in the morning because it kickstarts your day. So no matter how lazy or flat you feel later, you feel like you did something and you always did the routine. And the morning, as soon as you wake up, like brushing your teeth, it's easier. The more the day goes on, the more you can find excuses not to do it, because there are a lot of rational excuses. You don't need to do anything. You really don't. So a good morning routine helps immensely, but any routine. So that kind of purpose, if you can have something that you're excited about, the message is have something to wake up for that really motivates you, guys. Other than, and try as best you can to use language to mitigate the feeling of, well, I don't feel like it. Doesn't do anyone any good. The Crummy VCR says, I think it's unfair to compare the past with present. It has very little to do with who was in a better position. It's the timeline, not just the person. The person they had were still operational. Sure, where we were at a point in time, and the opportunity at that point in time. There are a couple of things that coincide, and unfortunately, as I said, a lot of life is timing. So a lot of life is like, if you keep staying in the same position, say you're one of these extremists in the manosphere that got badly hurt, I sympathize, and then you just want to stay in safety. The timing of your life will keep, if you're out there, as long as you're not just sitting in front of your computer, but through your day-to-day life, you get these opportunities. But if you're still stuck here in the past, 5, 10 years, and like, I'm not moving, I don't want to be hurt, I'm being rational, I'm smart, I'm not risking anything, you're a loser, I'm not. And then you just get potential after potential, and you're throwing them away because you want to be safe and smart. And if you want to do that, fine. Life is all about timing and taking opportunity, taking the opportunity to do something with that timing. So it's all about timing and you having the courage to grab hold of it if you choose to. If it's a calculated risk that you can recover from easily, aside from I'm heartbroken, you can move on with the knowledge of everything you've learned about yourself and men and women and all that kind of stuff, right? There's no experience like your own personal experience, empirical experience, guys. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. They'll throw out stats which can be manipulated. Let's not, like everything. University papers can be manipulated, especially because the people in charge there are fairly woke. So a lot of stuff is questionable, but once you pass all of this stuff through, hopefully, that you've made more critical and intelligence, you pass it through the final biggest filter of your own empirical experience. There's no point them saying 60% of marriages will fail, human, guaranteed. And yours will be one of them, right? There's no point me listening to all of that and me not trusting myself. I think the whole problem out there with men and women largely is no one trusts themselves. Everyone's been demoralized. There's no point. The stats say this. The women say this. All women are the same. It's so absolute that, of course, everyone feels like it's all fate. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can say. There's no will I can exert. I have to say yes to every pretty train wreck. I have to say yes to blah, blah, blah. I can't say no to this. I'm speaking about men especially. Women are told, I'm great, even though they know they're not. Oh, I've got low self-esteem. Therefore, the right thing to do is to have better self-esteem and bullshit my way to saying things I don't really believe, until I've said it so often that I believe the story I continually repeat. Doesn't do anyone any favors. Yeah, me too. Ted 1775. I want peace and quiet. That could be a good principle to have in front of you. Trust your instincts. You go on a date, or you get to know someone even before you go on a date, hopefully. I'm talking online. And if they make you feel calm, quiet, peaceful, secure, not game playing, they don't contradict themselves, and then you go on a date and it just continues and gets better. Like if they make you tranquil, if you're not nervous all the time, no matter how long you talk to them and you're around them, that you're not continually walking on eggshells and you're excusing it as like love. I must really love this person and like them because I'm so nervous around them. No, after a point, it's kind of like if you're always nervous, it's not a good sign. You should feel ideally, I know it's not always the case because sometimes you look at the person you love and you feel very different to when you're around and look at your family and friends. But ideally, when all things are considered, most of the time you just feel calm. You're not nervous. You're not walking on eggshells. And that lack of eggshell walking is a real key. But again, I've said it before that a lot of guys are so demoralized today because of what's expected of them and how they're blamed for everything and how little they think of themselves, that they don't really have much self-esteem. They don't trust themselves. What girl do I like? I don't know. Let me ask the rule book of the manosphere. Let me ask women. Let me ask society how I can act and what words I can say, and how I'm supposed to say them. Like, you don't put yourself at the front at all, which is a sad thing. Because everything we're complaining about, I think, stems from the inability to put yourself first and your boundaries and adhering to the reality of fairness and cooperation in the real world. Crummy VCR says it's prudent for a man to remember that on an average woman, if they were to live as a man for a day, would experience death from their perspective, emotional to rational. They'd be crushed. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, like my science fiction writing brain says this is just a teething process because the toothpaste is already out of the tube in terms of women, being independent and stuff. They've burnt that bridge. So this is going to be generations going forward of women kind of emotionally suffering and coming to terms with being as independent as men have like not independent, but as responsibly independent as men have always had to be. Up is up, down is down. You need money for, independence requires essentially the true form of independence is you on your own, responsible for you. If you're lucky, you can find someone else to support you and care for you and, be a companion. But yeah, I think it's going to be a painful teething process for women in the next few generations because we're not going back and women can't go back. And I think we just know too much about men and women now openly via the internet that no one can lie anymore. There's not stuff that can be hidden as much. And so slowly, whether women like it or not, and whether men like it or not, we're not going back to the good old days. Everyone just about has to be responsibly honest. A lot of the romantic stuff is going to go out the window. It's not going to, the romanticism between men and women in love isn't going to be this much. It's going to be probably halved. And sort of, it's just going to be everything else needs to be in place fairly before I will give you a bit of special treatment. Whereas before it was like just special treatment and I'll cross my fingers if the person's fair and realistic about, being fair and reciprocal to another human being. Error 42 says, what is your definition of need over want? Is need really need outside of just survival or more about contentment? Need broadly for me is what is actually good for you. What is the nutrition that your mind and body actually needs? Because what you want can be donuts, but what you need, you will still be happy with a tasty, beautiful, healthier meal, say. So that's what you need more. What you want is just emotional excess and unbridled, not being able to control your emotions and what you want. So just emotional desire, feeding off your emotions. So yeah, that's broadly, and I think most people would sort of agree, I think. Need is what objectively you would need, say, given your personality, or objectively your body needs, a certain amount of magnesium or whatever. Again, it's different for different people. See, we can all say, well, magnesium affects the human body in this way and we should all take it. But a person who naturally produces more magnesium or absorbs it faster than somebody else needs less or doesn't need it at all. So while we're very similar, while men have their nature and females have their nature, the degree to which that nature expresses itself is very, very different. So these cookie cutter things that guys teach you, they're great structural things to be aware of where you had blind spots, but then you need to come to terms with who you are. What is the nutrition you need? As I said, what I need in my life, not what others need, and not what is high value objectively. Yes, it can be a good baseline, but what is it to you, not others? Are you being validated by the group and by others, by the manosphere? Or really, would you rather be validated by the one person you love? Have a think about that. Guys in the manosphere laugh at that. Ah, the simp. He wants a chick to love him. Good luck, fella. Be ready to be sort of destroyed. It's kind of like, well, do I want to be validated by my imaginary amorphous blob of friends that I will never see out there who mean the best for me and appreciate conversations, but they'll never help me move a couch? Or if I need to have myself validated because I know there's a part of that that's missing and I want to be validated by either things, my hobbies that I can trust and they will validate me, or people that I can trust and love, like family and friends and maybe a lover, a romantic partner. Like, let's again be realistic. What do you need? And where is it more realistic to get that from? To get it from imaginary people that just keep your mouth above drowning when you're online speaking to them, or where you're not drowning at all. You're on dry land and you're hugging a person you love or you can trust. Yes, they'll say, well, there's risk. You're putting all your eggs into one basket. Well, what's more rational? You knowing yourself and trying to find the basket where it's safer to put all of your eggs or most of them, or spreading your eggs all over the world and hoping that the sort of the diverse multitude of spreading out your eggs, you're not going to be hurt. You're going to survive, but you're going to survive at a baseline of living before you finally hit the grave. Like, how much are you going to live compared to how much are you just going to merely survive? Again, do what you want, something to think about. That's all I'm saying. Dingus Fun. Thank you for the super chat again. Dingus Fun says, if your life isn't going the way you want, you do not need to involve another person in your life that will leave and you will be more miserable. Yes. Whereas if you were more solid and complete before you met someone, I was talking about this before, you'll be able to judge them better. You'll be able to confidently stand up for yourself rather than a broken person needing to monkey branch to someone to save him. Two broken people, or someone who's narcissistically never broken and they've got high self-esteem, but they manipulate and use people. They love people who are broken, people pleasers, right? And then what are you going to get used to, that pattern of monkey branching to someone when you're hurt? So I'm always pushing, like, be self-aware, be honest, stop trying to win in conversations, talk honestly, live and let live. If you're getting irritated and angry, be honest about what's irritating and making you angry. Is it the thing itself or your response to the thing itself? Because as cliched as it is, like, there are there are so much more awful people in the world today because there's no social calibration of people acting the right way, men and women acting the right way. So of course it's more dangerous out there. But what does that tell me? That tells me I need to tighten myself up because the world out there isn't tightening itself up. It's just unraveling more and more. Whereas before, in our grandparents' generation, you didn't need to sharpen yourself as much because the society and women and the way everyone conducted themselves out there in the world, it had a level of sharpness. The first few steps of interacting with people platonically or romantically was kind of policed fairly well, right? There are outliers. People sort of got away with what they wanted, but people got a lot of benefit from being told how to act and people accepted it. you know. But today, I would say the best thing you can do is be self-aware and control yourself as much as possible, where you're proud of how you've controlled yourself in situations that you would have otherwise been a 5-year-old child and found yourself with chocolate cake on your face again and a stomach ache, or worse. Graham F says, I think you're right. High value is a very difficult term to define. A lot of these manosphere content creators define high value as being wealthy. Yeah, and going to the gym. Yeah, imagine like 5 or 10 years down the line, you have hundreds and thousands of jacked, wealthy people, and that's the baseline for all these entitled women now. And they won't even look at anyone in the future who's not that. So then what will they want? They will want trillionaires with 8-packs and the ability to dunk and, I don't know, speak the minimum of 3 languages and just, make up something. If everyone is superficially high value, if everyone is superficially high value, imagine the entitlement and how everyone ups their delusional the bar, especially women. You've seen them now. It's ridiculous. 3s think they're 9s and 10s. What do you think will happen when men keep raising their value superficially, but not in substance? Like, these channels, some of these self-help channels, it helps that it makes you responsible for the routine of going to the gym, for instance, or running, or or eating properly, or being conscientious enough to go to a job or a business that you hopefully love doing, that you make something, you see the proof of hard work. But they don't talk about that. It's all make money, go to the gym, you'll get chicks. It's very loosely covering, it's very loosely lying about the intentions. Everything leads to women, if you notice on these pickup channels. It's like, yeah, men for themselves, power, money, strength, success, blah, blah, blah. And then you can get every woman you want. The goal at the end is like, then you can get the prize. Then you can get the prize. It's never any kind of, start a business because of yada, yada, yada. And let's go down the rabbit hole of why that's good for a man. Not necessarily let's go into business strategies, but let's go into, keeping the umbrella of why it's good for a man to be good at these things. Philosophically, what's good about sticking to routines and disciplining your emotional nature, controlling your life more, building something that'll go forward and that you just don't destroy every day, things like that. So they're always just touching on, yeah, these are the stepping stones you need, like gym, strength, money, status, and stuff. And then it's very obvious. It's like, and then women, and then women, and then women, right? So the thinking guy kind of sees that, well, eventually we're initially touching on what a man finds appealing, like, working in gym and creating something. And then finally at the end, this is what you get for all your hard work. That's what I hear a lot of. Oh, look, Dingus Fun as well. Thank you for the super chat again. He says, if you want a better person, you need to be better. The contradictions for so many of these guys that say, well, us men built the world, but you're doing nothing, right? Therefore, you think you deserve a Victoria's Secret model because us men are the best. Therefore, I deserve a really great woman. It's like, no, you're not what you think you deserve. In the same way, we make fun of these women who are 3s, but they think they're 10s and they're awful people. And we're very rational in saying, well, this is illogical. She's a 3. She thinks she deserves a 9 in a guy. She's like a 5% and she thinks she's like what are they, like the lowest rungs of society, and she thinks that she deserves like a Christian Grey or an Elon Musk or, just someone with a lot of status and power and money. So we can't be as delusionally unfair, especially in terms of where we are in life and relating to something. If you're here in the range of life and people and where you like yourself and who you are, you can't want something that's so far beyond you. It's good as motivation, but you won't be able to sustain a relationship with something that's so far removed from who you are. And, if you're a 2 and she's a 10, unless she's got something wrong with her, and even then it's going to be hard to have an honest, proper relationship with her where you talk and everything makes sense. Most likely people who kind of, some of it is kind of trauma based, some of it is, I don't know. Anyway, I'm saying think more rationally, guys. Real name's not given. Sometimes you don't know what you need till after you get it. As an example, I finally adjusted my glasses and now my head doesn't hurt. I had that too a couple of years ago, real name's not given. I was always getting headaches and I thought it was I didn't drink enough water, which I don't. And then I noticed it was always on one side and then I was like, freaking out. Is it a tumor or something? And then I knew my eyes were kind of getting blurry and stuff. And then when I got my eyes test, this eye was lazier than the other one, and this one had to work harder to compensate, and that's why I had headaches predominantly on this side. And I noticed when I work, most of the day in front of the computer, things like that. So, yeah. Sometimes the lesson is you need to go through bad, and hopefully it's not an irrecoverable bad, like a bad relationship where it was heartbreak and nothing more, and you can pick yourself up as long as you do sort of the psychological and philosophical work. But sometimes we need to experience the bad to really know what we want. That's the easy thing in the manosphere. We learn really, like religion, we don't want this anymore. This is not fair. That's great. But then you can't say, my ethics and morals in life is what I don't want. That's how I'm sure of myself. It's pretty myopic. Like you're never calibrated towards, okay, I know by rote, I know with my eyes closed what's not good. Yeah, we've all talked about it. It's obvious. We can see it from orbit. What do I want? I don't want to talk about that. Why? Because you don't want to be responsible for it. You're starting to be as irresponsible as women are. So I just see a lot of guys becoming like men because women are running the social script out there, the social dynamic. It's understandable, but I think it takes a lot of conscious will to kind of slow down, pause, and then think about things like, are you being fair? Why do you feel a certain way? What do you want? If it's still a herd of cats, try and organize the herd of cats that go on in your head, the emotions. Write them down. I was shocked, many, many years ago when I started to really see the value of writing down and journaling, expressing myself through words, that I was surprised when I wrote down what I felt and I read it back. It felt like a different person. It's like, do I really think that? I wrote that like, oh my God, it doesn't even seem like me. But that was what I felt as I was letting the stream of consciousness out. And then slowly you start to write better. You think better, you speak more by the virtues that you know are right because you're writing them down and you're constantly practicing those things. What I do in these streams is just like field stripping a rifle. It's just repetition by doing the thing you know you should be doing because you want to be that person, because that's the right person. That's who I admire. That's my mentor. That's aspirational. It's better than who I was. UN says, early daylight in your face in the morning reinforces good sleep habits. Yes, vitamin D. Is it vitamin A? I always get them confused. Wakes you up and it kickstarts your day. Is also good for your testosterone levels. Yes, I've heard that as well. Get out into the sun, guys. It's good for your testosterone levels too. But in Australia, don't stay out too long. The UV here is awful. Karu, how are you, man? Hope you slept well. He says, the only things you should want is to have the wisdom to make the right choices and the open-mindedness to get in the situations where you can pick. Yeah. I think there's nothing more demoralizing to guys today. Like I said, we're already demoralized. But when you just go back to the comfortable choices you made yesterday over and over again, and you're saying, yeah, I did this every other time before. I picked the same girl. I said the same things. I went on the same autopilot. And all you're relying on is this. and you're kind of doing this to the universe and saying, oh, please, just give me the lottery win. I'm doing the same things every time. Please make it different this time. It just sounds too much the way women do things. And I know it's harder than ever for men to kind of push against that because society has crumbled and women are steering the ship socially. But make a decision, take a calculated risk. Don't go too far. And then just learn lessons, and then you can take bigger risks because you've got more and more responsibility. So, if you're worried, don't look to be perfect. Don't look to never write a page of that book you always want to write because you want to get yourself to be the perfect writer. It'll never happen. You have to start evolving out loud. I mean, this is what I did with my streams. I was really worried and scared of not being able to speak properly because my videos before I started my streams were scripted, noted, and everything was organized, right? And I really enjoyed people I just saw on streams or in vlogs or something, just naturally talking off the cuff, having a conversation with people. So thought, I wish I can do that. But I can't. It's like, well, you can. Stop saying you can't. They're just a normal person. You're just worried about not being perfect. And so take these calculated risks and learn, get more confident. You walk on eggshells less and less, to the point now I'm never scared about doing streams. And I've only done streams for like 1 or 2 years. I can't remember. Hasn't been that long. And the person I was at the start, even the first 6 months, it was kind of worry and resisting doing streams because I was worried about what I would say and not being good and being embarrassing, looking at myself again and like, oh, you loser. You're so terrible at this. And now there's no fear. It's just like, I don't feel like doing it this morning, but like, no, do it. It's a habit that's actually good for you. And once you do it, like every other good habit, you feel 10 times better. So just do what is good for you, what you decided is good for you, what you want to do. So yeah, as Karu says, have the wisdom to make right choices, but you can only make right choices through wisdom. So you have to make a few mistakes, but hopefully take calculated ones or intelligently and logically take the risks that the chances of it turning into an atomic bomb and ruining your life are so small. Don't convince yourself that they're small because you really want to go to bed with the hot chick, the mess. It's that, no, realistically, I'm getting warning signs. My nervousness is, I'm aware of the pitfalls of this. So you have to be responsible about your reality of the risks you're taking. But some guys just are so cowardly, dishonest, and lazy that they will make very intelligent excuses for not doing anything. And who am I to tell them they're wrong? If they're saying to me, right, there's a lot of guys that say, I don't need women. Yeah, I don't care. Stop telling me I need to. I was like, it's cool. Look, it's fine. If you want to, it's not my life. I am trying to give tough love to the guy who is like me. I'm trying to talk to someone who's somewhere like me. Hopefully I'm speaking to that guy if I want to help someone. If it doesn't speak to you, fine, man. I'm a fool in your eyes. But the me that made mistakes, I wish someone gave me the clarity of this kind of tough love, this kind of language. This would have helped me. As a response to the demoralization, a Tyler Durden-esque way of thinking starts to look really good. The urge for freedom in all forms becomes overwhelming. And also, a lot of people aren't responsible for the freedom. They want the feeling, but not the reality that will produce the feeling and sustain it. Neanderthal says, a 44-year-old and lost the desire for a relationship. If I have a friend with benefits that I see once a week, then I will be satisfied. Even if she's not exclusive, is there something wrong with it? No. I've had that in the past as well. Depends on your standards. And don't let any guy or girl, especially, but I'm taking it as a given. Guys on my channel know they're like, yeah, don't let any woman shame you. You like this. I don't care. Stop shaming me for something that's got nothing to do with you. I like what I like. If you don't like it as well, and I really don't want to let go of it, find somebody else. I'm not willing to compromise on this thing. And if it really, it floats your boat and you're happy, you sleep at night, you've got a well-balanced life, man, just do what you want to do. Don't let anyone shame you. But also, A lot of guys in the manosphere don't shame other people either. I crack a joke here and there. It's tongue in cheek, but guys who know me and that I talk to, I'm sort of giving you my position. I don't respect these kind of people as much as these kind of people. I don't hate anyone. If you're happy, good for you, man. You may not be my best friend. I may not be able to relate to you, understand you, but I guess what I wish for people, and I'm not saying I'm anything special, is that you would try to better yourself, to talk to yourself like tried to talk to a younger version of me, to make those choices and to have a bit of courage to do just the little things. Guys, I find today through conversation and what they write in videos and the videos they make, is their security lies in just giving up. Because it's very black and white. There's a lot of security in their philosophy. I can't deny it. A lot of what these nihilists will say, I can't disagree, other than, well, you might need to be aware of what this might produce. And it's like, well, I'm fine with it. You can't point to anything where my life is bad. I like where I am. I can't tell them they're wrong. But then those same people, I have very little sympathy, whether it's them, I have a bit of sympathy for them because they weren't a-holes, perhaps. If I'm talking to someone who's respectful and reasonable and just saying, look, let's agree to disagree. I like my life. Whatever you say, I've taken stock of what you said. I'm going to continue doing it. I'm good with it, right? I'm not hurting anybody. Fine. But then later, the kind of guys that say, well, this happened to me and now I've changed my mind and you need to help me and you don't have any sympathy. It's like, well, I'm thinking more of the extremes of the guys that are really vocal and put other men down, or women that put men down and say, I don't need a man. And then later on they come back and they found the religion of reality and they realize that they've been a fool. You can't really hold much against people that don't give them sympathy. You can't. Ghost Pro, thank you very much for your super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for the donation. And JJ Recon, thank you as well for the super chat donation. I really appreciate it. And any of you guys who want to give a super chat, if you want to write a question with your super chat or a comment, feel free to. I'll read it out for sure. UN says, needing versus wanting is the ability to cognitively recognizing what you want, but you don't need, and making the healthy, better choice. Instant gratification versus achieving long-term results. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, would most of you agree, right? If I come across an Andrew Tate video, the times that I respect more of what he's saying, even if he's being rational on say every video I watch, right? When he's slaves to his emotion and he's talking really fast and he's putting people down, he's calling people losers, he's lowering his sort of his maturity to the level of, like, say he's on Fresh and Fit or something, and he's just like spurging out the same way that, like, women. I don't respect that as much. The ability to control things in your life, your attitude, how you speak, your temperament, resisting the impulse to be angry, creating a longer fuse in the areas that you should, fixing those areas in your life that you're not proud of. Remember, guys, if you want to ask me a question during the stream, put 3 circles just like this in front of your question to me, and I'll be able to see it more easily. Okay. Let's read some questions and comments. I asked a poll last night, usually after, if I can find a relatable question that would add to this conversation during the stream, I do so. And I asked the poll last night, after physical attraction, which, that's the obvious one. You always have the physical attraction. That's the easy one, which seems to be what most people just base their relationships off. My first impression was she was hot, therefore first impressions are all that count. It's pretty myopic and immature. It's kind of like, ooh, I want chocolate cake, therefore I will eat chocolate cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and ignore the effects, or if it's a smart decision. I said, after physical attraction, I said, my top two things that I look for are kindness and similar values. And someone rightly pointed out that, similar values would be kindness. So really it's one, just similar values. But really out of the values that I find important, kindness would be number one. And I wanted to know what people's values were, what they thought was important. And let me see what people said. AJ Taylor said, kindness is one of my non-negotiables when it comes to a woman I'm going to be in a relationship with long term. If you can't simply be a kind person to everyone in your life, I suppose not everyone, you've got to have boundaries. If people step over them, you've got to say, fuck off. I won't even think twice about not dealing with you. I think without reason, being short, abrupt, and rude, that I would agree with you. But if there's a justifiable reason for someone standing up for themselves and they're rude, I think there's a gray area there, and how they react. AJ continues. Also, having similar values is extremely important, especially if you plan on getting married and having a family. But even if you aren't, just having someone who lives by the same values, morals as you do, help the compatibility between you two in that relationship. Yes. Deep Diver says, I'm a woman, but on a human level. I would say similar values combined with an instant soul connection. Yeah, this is some of these phrases that men find hard to connect with. But, you have your own values. She continues, I say this because I have experienced it. When you say similar values, kindness also falls under the category of similar values. Yeah, as I mentioned as well, I agree. David P, long-time member, how are you? He says, I watch how she reacts to others. Yeah, that's a good one, because she can sell herself as the perfect person to you. Women are very shrewd. They know how to behave, especially to someone they're wanting to impress, that they admire. They'll mirror you and tell you everything you want to hear, and show you everything you want to see, and get naked and whatever else, because they really want you, right? But read between the lines and just observe not the direct relationship between you and her, but see if it's contradicted between her and other people. Yeah. Don't just be kind of myopically in love with the connection between you and her, but you will know it's more real if you see it reciprocated, maybe to a lower level, between her and the waiter, between her and a stranger in the street, how she talks. When you're talking about a random subject, if she just flies off the handle and she's very hateful, or she's like more level-headed and, yeah, I don't agree with it, but blah, 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 but she's very even and fair, you'll get a better overall picture of her, not just by how she treats you and what she says. That's primarily how you should go by, but also if it's not contradicted by how she treats the world and everything outside of you. Because it could be worrying in the future. What if you have a rocky patch? She's going to treat you like she treats the world. So as long as things are good, she's happy and you're her king. But as soon as you have an argument, you're a peasant and she's still the queen. It's dangerous. Joe says, I don't look any further. A glance, a quick, yeah, she's cute type of thought, and then I move along. Pushing 50, been through it. Some of it was fun, yes, and I'm glad I experienced it, but I've had enough. I prefer peace and measure. Yeah, as long as you're at peace with it, that's fine, man. I just kind of Just annoys me with the guys that say they're at peace, but they're kind of frustrated and they get really defensive and angry. You can tell by the way they talk and write. But yeah, do what you want. It's your life. Yeah. Richard said, kindness can be faked and often is cloaking in a toxic personality. In the honeymoon period, yes, which is why I always talk about stay sober in the honeymoon period. The honeymoon period is a screensaver, and that screensaver is going to disappear, guys. Past the honeymoon period, someone can't keep up that act forever. They can't. You can't help but over time you will see their real nature, and you will start to see why do you feel good all the time, or that you're just feeling worse and worse and you don't know why. Check Reality says loyalty, exclusivity, feminine, loving, and can accept a man at the level she found him. Yeah. She accepts the guy she found, because guys accept the woman they find. They don't like it when women change, generally speaking. Ellie Nope says age first for me. Okay. Everyone has their standards, which also, like, the more you know what matters to you. No, this matters to me. This compatibility matters. Yours is age first. Who am I to tell you? This is your subjective compatibility. What's the point of listening to the manosphere and saying, go to the gym, make money, speak this way, and be sort of a robot man that every woman wants? It's kind of a bit vanilla. I don't know. Maybe I'm much more of a subjective person. I'm not sure, but like I kind of know what works for me and what doesn't. And a lot of the cookie cutter solutions, like, they kind of make me barf. They're so far away from who I am and what I'm interested in and what I find real and fun and where I want to spend my time and how much effort I want to give to that bullshit. Ellie Nope continues, I'm semi-autistic about some things and this is a sticking point for me. Yeah, well, as long as you're very, very honest about it and you know it is, like, stick to it. It's better to be pig-headed about what you think is a very, very reasonable standard for you, rather than I'm a whatever. I'll see what happens. Let's see where it goes. And inevitably, things just end up the same way and you learn nothing, because you don't take any lessons forward into the next thing with standards. So if you're always, let's see where this goes, let me hope for a lottery win, and 99.99% recurring is going to end the same way and you're never going to get anything out of it. Not even a lesson that you can take into the future and at least mitigate doing that thing again. You're going to say, well, it's all luck. I'll just do the same thing again. I don't know. I believe relationships are much more a skill than luck. There is a lot of luck in coming across the person, but after that, man, it is almost completely all skill. And by skill, I don't mean how good naturally you are, but your courage and your ability to say your yeses and nos, and really not just say you learned this lesson and say what you know and what you want privately in the manosphere, but now that you have the opportunity to stand up for yourself and prove it by words and how you distance yourself or bring yourself closer to this person, now you still don't want to do it. That's the luck is only at the start. The luck of coming across the person. Everything after that, I wholeheartedly believe, just becomes more and more, if not completely, all about skill. And by skill, I mean just being consciously honest, saying what you think, being fair with the person, being real about things. Talking your walk. Life says, I want to say similar values, but I know myself well enough to know I'm ultimately going to weigh her kindness more. Fair enough. Jimmy says, body count, loyalty, in actions as well as words. Realistic Delinquent says, humility. Yeah. Well, yeah, kindness, humility, I think they're kind of not exactly synonymous, but they're very, very related. They're close cousins or direct siblings, to belabor the metaphor. The one thing that can sum that can usurp physical attraction for me is humility. A gorgeous woman can become ugly by having an ego. I agree. An average woman can become beautiful by being humble. That is a brilliant comment. I'm pinning that. Exactly. Yep. An average woman can become beautiful by being humble. A lot of women, I think they kind of know this, but because women value beauty so much, they're so addicted to it between each other, and they can really exert power over women and men with just physical attractiveness. They know this, but they don't value it themselves. You know, being honest, being humble, being realistic. They just don't desire it. Like I don't desire, I don't know, pick a food or pick a genre of movie. Look, I can respect it. I know what it is. Yeah. I can put a gold star on it, but I'll never reach for it. I'll never eat that food. Like yeah, fine, it's fine. I know it's good. Caviar's great. Truffles are great, you know. Whatever it might be, I don't know, but like there's a difference between what you know is good. Sorry, there's a difference between that and what you know you works for you. So an average woman to a man, like a 5 to a man can holistically become a 9 or a 10. Yeah, if you're saying judge her on looks, all right, she's a 9. Judge her completely on personality. I've dated and met some women who are 9s on looks alone, only on looks. But if I were to judge them, where do you just rate them? Just holistically on the average, where do you rate them as a whole person, 1 to 10? Some of them are 3s, some of them are 0s or -2s. They're actively just poison. They're awful. They're a pile of crap with you know pretty paint on top or something. You know, they're a pig in a dress. So some of them actually negative. But yeah, okay. If you're judging just on looks, she's a 9. Objectively, she's a 9. And that's actually what drew me to her. But then after sort of talking to her or foolishly dating her because I wasn't experienced or I was stupid, yeah, she was a 3. What was I thinking? There's a very good reason why she didn't meet my family and friends, you know? Um, Christian Z says, kindness is fundamental for healthy relationships, but similar values act as an adhesive. Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Kindness is good, but if you have similar values, that's the adhesive, that's the glue to your relationship. As of this moment in time, similar values. Yeah. I've relayed this message I heard from an older person when I was very young. They said, when we were talking about relationships, this is when I was really interested in having conversations with people who are older and more experienced. I wanted to get things right. I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was really frustrated. I was doing everything right. I was trying in the way women said and how society said, but everything made me end up getting in last place. And everyone that was doing everything supposedly wrong was getting the girl, was being rewarded. And so I found it a lie, or I just wasn't doing it right. So I needed to talk to people who were skilled and experienced and have been through it. And an older guy once said to me, let me give this more gravitas by talking to you with my big head. He said, there are 3 essential things you need in life, boy, with a relationship to make it work. Physical attraction, that's easy. That's what everyone goes on today. Hooking up, that's all I need, right? Physical attraction. Mental attraction. You've got to be able to at least talk with the person. The person's at least civil or something. But third, got to want the same things out of life. That's the hardest. Now, if I look back on my last relationship, I had the first 2, physically attractive, and also I could talk to her. She was polite enough, well spoken, blah blah blah. We did not want the same things out of life. And in the initial honeymoon period, like you give especially you get the second one, you give that the benefit of the doubt, and you just see if there's the third one there, if it reveals itself. Because a lot of the same things out of life come with you're brave enough to talk about what you think politically, how you think men and women, like what you want. Like ultimately, you should be able to sort of express that in the dating phase too. But sometimes it takes longer for people. Yeah, humility. A gorgeous woman can become an ugly one by having an ego. I agree. That was well said. Let's check out the stream, shall we? Okay. Okay. All right, let me go through some of the questions I haven't read, guys, on the live stream here. Dickus91 says, after what happened with Discord server, do you have any intentions of starting up a new server at some point? I have. On Gilded, you'll find the link in my About section on my YouTube page. Gilded's not as popular, not as many people go on there, but if you got, and it's not as woke, so it's it hasn't sort of been taken over in that way as much. So there's they're not going to nuke the channel, but just again, guys, be respectful. Stop acting like 5-year-olds and saying things that will get the server shut down. If it gets shut down by you guys being spurgs, it's not my fault. That's what happened on Discord. So it's up to you guys to restrain yourselves from talking like 5-year-olds and posting these stupid pictures up there, pictures and words that you know are going to get the server shut down potentially. You're painting a huge target on my server. So yeah, if it gets shut down again by you idiots, like, and you know who you are. I'm not saying the majority of the guys that follow me are great. I talk to a lot of them, but all it takes is 1 or 2 idiots. And yeah, my server lasted longer than I thought, and a lot of guys did police it. But I think this last year, maybe people didn't go on there as much, and you just kind of got people just dropping in and dropping comments, and no, it wasn't policed as much. So again, it's up to you guys to police the open servers, because I can't sort of be on there 24/7 plugged in. I've got other things to do, like making videos and, you know, living life. Karu, the thing that I do respect is what you're doing now, dunking on bad ideas. People the same way Taty's getting dunked on when he drops the soap. Yeah, realize, like, there are some people that, yeah, realize the distinction between this person you wouldn't want as a friend. You don't like their personality, but what they're saying is true. So you can separate what the message is from the messenger. I've always admired Charles Bukowski's writing. I really like his writing, and so do a lot of other people. Would I want to be friends with him? No. If you look at interviews with what kind of person he was a terrible human being. Terrible's harsh, but he just wasn't. He was a very kind of angry, embittered, short-tempered person that would only really click with certain types of people. And I'm definitely not his type of person, but I definitely gel with what he writes. So the writer in him was very different to the human expressive person that he was in real life. And he had struggles and upbringing issues and things like that that he had to contend with that I didn't. Homelessness and things like that. But yeah, differentiate between the message and the messenger, and that'll help you guys in cherry picking from everything in online, not just the manosphere, but, you know, philosophy, Jordan Peterson, vlogs, just podcasts between unrelated things that you would never, you know, broaden your horizons. You're not just going to have relationships with people in the manosphere. You're getting all your information there. You've got to go out and, you know, as Karu said to me, you got to go out there and touch grass. Jake, the denigrate says, how many women out are kind though? Maybe 20%. I would say 10% of them are kind. I would say you're being generous. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm being ingenerous. But say they are. Who cares? You know what kindness is, or the degree of kindness you need. This is why I'm saying to guys, create your own ethics, know what you want, have your reasonable standards for a woman to come in, you know, to date. Don't just date anyone and figure it out as you go along. It's a train wreck. Most people who do that, it's like, it almost always ends up badly. If you get lucky, you're hoping for the lottery. So say it's 20%, who cares? What is right? What's compatible? The stats really don't, the only time the stats should really make you pause and consider them as the truth is that if it's like 99% of something or 100%, or if it's above like 95%, because those stats apply to people generally who believe in the status quo, the messaging. They believe in fate. They don't think there's anything they can do. They're lazy. They don't trust themselves, blah, blah, blah. But if you know, and I always give the example of businesses, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. But if you're a person that knows that, well, I know why 9 out of 10 businesses fail, but I'm so self-driven that I'm not just going to be counting on luck for my business to be successful. I need my business to be successful because of how seriously I take it. And I'm just going to try and try and try again. And we admire those guys. And we never say, well, dude, don't start a business. 9 out of 10 of them fail. Yet we do say, don't get married or don't get into a relationship because of 60% of them fail. It's stupid. The odds of a successful business are worse. Yes, most guys in the self-help arena encourage guys to start a business. If I go all in on my business and I take it seriously, but I'm lazy, I'm still going to lose 90 to 100% of my fortune in the same way I would have lost 90 to 100% of my fortune in a marriage. But the odds, if I pick properly, would be very different on the outcome. Do you see what I mean? How you conduct yourself, who you pick, what your yeses and nos are, make the world of difference. Karu says, what does top G mean? Gangster, I think. Because G in the old R&B days meant gangster as well. So I think it means top gangster, not top guy. I know something that Karu doesn't, a colloquial term. I'm often asking Karu, what does this mean? What does this acronym mean? Like all these LOLs and LGBF and whatever. Dingus fun. YouTube is like 1984. I can't say anything on Super Chat. Yeah, I know. The AI really polices things fast. You know, a lot of the times you see on the stream here, not here, but here, things get deleted. It's not me, or it's often not the mods, the admins that I've put in place, like Donna. It's that the AI is so quick at picking up certain words that they just delete it. And sometimes the words you're using in the sentences aren't offensive, but they don't take the meaning of the sentence into context. They just don't want certain words, and they just zero in on a word and they delete your whole comment. That's why men have to do stupid things in these comments, like Warman, and replace O's with zeros and E's with number 3s and things like that. But the AI's figured all that out very, very quickly. You can barely get away with it. Cynical optimist. You can't value value. You can value what you value, not abstractly. That's why I'm saying don't just value what everyone says is the top 3 things that every man needs to become or be. You need to value what you subjectively find of value. I'm talking interpersonally. I'm not talking objectively. Objectively, yeah, we can value stay healthy, be fit. It's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit others. It's going to benefit society. Like it's a win-win across the board. You can choose not to. It's your choice, but you're going to be responsible for what you value either way. You can choose what you want, but you're not going to be able to be absolve yourself of the responsibility of the choice. So I think Ayn Rand said this: you are free to do what you want, but you are not free from the consequences of doing what you want. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Any last questions, guys? Because I think I've been going for a while now. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. My coffee tastes better now. I always put cream in my coffee, and then I thought, yeah, to knock off a few calories, let me go for, low calorie milk, light milk, or whatever. Just doesn't taste the same. I find it hard to drink straight black coffee, so I've gone back to cream, which is beautiful. Let me be more accurate in my language. Delicious. Schaefer Hart, what inspired you to make my problem with waiting to be happy? Um, Generally, from what I remember of that video, I sort of always relay the story where many years ago, I think it was about 7 years ago, I quit my high paying studio job in the corporate world because everything on paper I had, but I felt just flat and like my world was in black and white. I thought I had the girl I liked, everything was great, bought everything I wanted, free. But I was irritated at the political correctness in the workplace, the HR, walking on eggshells around my girlfriend at the time, even though I thought I had a prize with this subject and that subject and not making her angry and stuff like. So I kind of knew I was living a lie, but on paper, I was proud to show that I achieved architecturally this great life that I couldn't say I was unhappy with because I designed it all, but it was a black and white design. And I knew I just wanted to, if it was really being free and happy, it needed to have color in it. So that freedom of color, where it wasn't just structurally what I thought I wanted, but also what I thought I wanted translating into actually what I need and want afterwards, as in it's filled in with color. And so what I did was, well, I knew I didn't like my job. It was grinding at me. The only thing that was keeping me there, if I was being honest with myself, again, what I wanted to do after that, I realized that my world was in black and white. And the only way to make it color is that it wasn't color because I wasn't honest with myself. I got everything I desired, but I wasn't honest with myself. And so when I started to be honest and I said, like, I can't get any more than I want now. The only thing that's going to make me color in my world with color is to be honest. And the honest thing was to do the easy one was, even though it was scary, is like, just quit my job with no plan as to what to do otherwise. Otherwise, I'm just going to monkey branch to a substitute of what was familiar. Give myself time, be comfortable with being uncomfortable because I know I need to do that. Something in me, my instincts is, human, you need to. Don't just monkey branch to comfort again, and then you won't be able to do it. You've saved up a little bit of money. You can afford to take 6 months off. 6 months turned into nearly a year. And in that time, my girlfriend then, that I thought was great and I had a prize, she left me after a couple of months because I was soul searching. I wasn't a miserable person, but couldn't afford to do a lot of things. I couldn't afford to go out to eat all the time. Couldn't afford to buy new camera equipment because she was into photography. So it created a bit of a distance, I suppose, fairly enough with her expectations of me, but I needed to do that. So yeah, and I just kind of realized my personal experience, my problem with waiting to be happy, like if if I kind of know what I need to do, but I just don't have the courage, it's clear what I can try, and I'm not trying it, it's my own fault. So I don't want to wait to be happy. I want to do the things that will create happiness as a result. Like if you do this, this, and this, happiness will probably be a result. You might not, but you will just stay the way you are. And you will just be like a girl waiting for a bouquet of flowers, like, oh, ask me out on a date, rather than taking action to find someone, rather than taking action to be happy. I didn't like sitting in that uncomfortable space, waiting to be happy. Doing to be happy seems much more rational to me. So that was from personal experience, but it makes more sense to me anyway, even objectively. What are some, if any, views that you've had and posted to the channel over your time of people on the platform? Have you found that you've changed your views on that particular topic? Um, Yes, I haven't completely flipped black and white, but I have adjusted a lot on some issues compared to other issues. Because sometimes where we feel really good and safe and content, sometimes we, beat our chests a bit and we laugh at people who either want us to leave our comfortable position. Like I would never laugh at a guy who is comfortable on their own in monk mode, in I don't ever want to get married, I don't ever want to have a relationship. I don't, I would never make fun of him, because I know when I was in that place and I was really enjoying my life, I felt good. That people that forced me religiously to convert to their way, even though they were well-meaning, I didn't appreciate it and I fought back. Like, I feel good here. Don't tell me to do something I don't want to do. And in the same way, I don't want to force anyone. Even though I think, look, I've been where you are, you may start to feel like me and it's going to be shitty, and you're going to go through a lot of, peeling the band-aids off, and a lot of it's going to hurt. Just be a little bit more open-minded, and when you might have to peel those band-aids off later, it's not going to be as painful. But I can't, because I've been there too. So I've changed, I've adjusted my tune. I don't think I've really flipped 180 as a person or on the central views. Like, if you want to get married, don't want to get married. For instance, I was more, I respected guys less who wanted to get married, but I always fought for their right to do what they wanted if they really wanted to do that and they were a sensible guy. Like, I really couldn't stand the manosphere that made fun of guys who got married, especially if they haven't talked to the guy. This guy could be very intelligent. He lives for this. His life is meaningless without kids and family. He's very traditional. Like, is that your ego that you think you're a fool if you don't become me? Let's look at your life. A lot of people who are determined, they've got the answers. Their lives are shitty. So I'm just very careful not to. There's a word for not just being dogmatic, but religiously extremist, where you're trying to convert other people. So many things I've adjusted my views on. I don't think I've wholeheartedly flipped. Like, I really hated something before and now I love it. Like, I haven't gone black and white. I haven't, in a binary sense, gone from one to the other. So I don't think there's any one thing. Maybe other people can see, but I have definitely changed my views and adjusted and become more sympathetic to views that I had I held some things in contempt, not quite hated, and I laughed at, and now I don't laugh at them anymore. I've got sympathy for them. And some of them, if the opportunity arose, I may do that. I may adopt that before I laughed at it. And you guys can laugh at me all you want. But if my life is better, like, you can sit there making fun of me, but I don't care if my life is good. Because I've been in places where I was making fun of other people and I was stressed and I hadn't figured out a lot. But the only way I made myself feel better is by pointing my finger and throwing mud at people, pointing my finger and throwing mud at women. And a lot of those things are right, but I don't need to up the volume and act like a 5-year-old. Am I feeling good by putting other people down, or am I feeling good by taking steps in my life without being able to control my emotions and not having the need to put other people down? Schaefer said, I loved my problem with waiting to be happy, by the way. Good stuff. Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've sort of, if there's one big way I've changed, is that I was either neutral or, I pointed out women's mistakes much, much more. When I started my channel, almost exclusively, I was supporting men myself, working things out. And then when I started to take more realistic steps and I wanted to be happy, I've adjusted more the other way. So I wouldn't say, if I listen to some of my first videos, I would say I wouldn't disagree with any of it, but it's very one-sided. I never talked about going your way or going towards something, doing things better. It was all defensive and talking about my frustrations of how women weren't fair, what they did wrong, how they double-crossed me, and all those things are real. So I wouldn't disagree with anything I said, but the forward-leaning posture of making my life better is very, very different. I'm much more optimistic, not because I'm, delusional, but because I insist on saying my yeses and my nos, where it's realistic to do so, where I can have better outcomes. Justin Brink, thank you very much for the donation, the super chat. He says, "Hey human, first time supporter. Love the honesty. I'm told I should want a low body count, innocent girls, but I only fall in love with gorgeous sociopaths who aren't afraid to hurt me physically." Physically? I don't know what's in it with that. I can relate to I've been out with kind of more the sociopathic gorgeous girls. Most of the sociopaths, I say for the females, they make themselves into the bait that you want so that you can bite on the hook, and then they've got you and then they destroy you and rip your guts out. But they aren't afraid to hurt me physically. I've never had that. I actually react defensively and aggressively defensively when a woman tries to physically harm me. So I've never had that. So I don't know what that is. I would look into that, like try and soul search into your past, into your upbringing and stuff, where that fetish comes from. Because it can't be coincidence that the guys that have, every woman I've gone out with, I tell her I don't want to be cheated on. That's my sore spot. Every woman cheats on me. And you tell them, I don't want women who cheat on me, and they tell you they won't. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to pretend to know the answer, but the pattern and you ask these guys, and what they tell you is there's nothing that sticks out. There's nothing that they told them or they found out that this girl was a red flag for cheating, but all of them did. So it's just kind of interesting, the kind of women you're attracted to, what you think love is, and how ultimately you break up, and the need for you to address what that is and really vet that out of the person on the first few dates through casual conversation so you can really find that out. That stuff's essential. But yeah, thanks. That was a good comment. Because the more you go out and pattern yourself against this dysfunctional love in your head, you start to kind of like, well, that's what love is. That's what I'm attracted to. I can't help it. I'm attracted to that kind of woman. What can I do? I can't just go to bed with a woman I don't find appealing and attractive. Like, I can't get it up. Like, I need that violent, dysfunctional, bad sort of thing, and I get excited and aroused. What's more important, the boner or your safety? I don't know. See, it's not easy, guys. And again, I realize the cookie cutter stuff is the equivalent of the police keeping you safe. But sorry, you're the only police that's going to keep you safe in your relationship and your ethics and your rules. I nearly spilt my coffee. I think August Lyon or someone else who's a regular waits for me to spill. But thanks for that, Justin. He also continues, and thanks for the other super chat. He says, "It is indeed a fetish." Yeah, I've mentioned that in videos too, but that's the PG version. And yes, it's conditioning, but it's controlled pain, nothing excessive. Look, there's a difference if you can control it, but unfortunately, that sort of stuff, if primarily it comes from there, the more you trust a person, the more you feel like you can trust them with broadening the boundaries of where you allow pain and the fetish to reside. It kind of, the fetish, and I think a lot of people just have relationships fetishistically today. Say that 5 times fast, fetishistically. I don't think people really love and relate intimately. They don't want to be hurt, so I'll pump and dump. And the only way I'll desire a person and the only way I want intimacy is at a fetishistic distance, right? And that's really safe because I don't have to be vulnerable. I can put on a mask. I can enjoy my fetish. Neither of us are real. I never love the person. And then what do? You're conditioned with that distant fetish way of relating. Then when you one day said, I'm tired of that, I want to have a real relationship, all you're used to is turning up to dates with the fetish mask on and looking for the fetish and being stimulated by the fetish in the other person. And it might be unconscious. So these are the sort of things you need to come to terms with. And the best you can do is realistically, when you're not in front of the hot chick, the dysfunctional fetish, when you're sober, you've got a journal, you're talking to a friend, be honest about what's important and where you've always stumbled. And try your best not to sample that forbidden fruit or not to have that 12th pack of donuts when you're sick of being unhealthy and now you want to be healthy. I know what my Achilles heel is donuts, but my life turns to shit. I can't just say I love donuts and then complain later on. It's donuts' fault. It's not my fault. It's McDonald's. It's like, no, it's yours. McDonald's is never going to change. Sociopathic, great sex is never going to change. Martial arts, Oriental medicine. Oh, actually, first off, I apologize. Let's go back here. Let's go back. I think. Oh no, I thought I didn't read all of Justin's comment. I did. Martial arts, Oriental medicine. Thank you for your super chat. I really appreciate it, man. A long-time supporter. Really, martial arts, Oriental medicine. This seems like a good guy. He's intelligent. I think he's a doctor. Very in touch spiritually. So I always know what he's going to say is pretty good. Look at this. I've got like a see-through background. Anyway, hello, human everyone. I'm in a Buddhist monastery. There you go. Just tells you everything you need to know. I'm in a Buddhist monastery for a while. There is a high state meditation monks do to detach from desire. What are you doing using your mobile phone in a Buddhist monastery? Martial arts, Oriental medicine. Maybe I'm thinking of like where you need to be silent and not have mobile phones and stuff. He continues, you see the body as it is with all the visceral, bones and blood. So after a while, no desires. I stopped very strong. Okay, be well. Yeah, a lot of people, I find that in a healthy way, they go cold turkey. They know they can't do things. They can't do things their way. They can't just choose the right thing. Sometimes they really need tough love and force themselves to sign into a monastery where someone else is being the personal trainer to get them to where they want. So these silent retreats and things like you pay, you commit, you have no option out, you've made the decision, and so you've taken all other options away. Now you're in this retreat. Some of those things are what people need. And some people just need them as refreshers as well. People that continually keep stumbling over their dysfunctions. Thanks for dropping in and the super chat, martial arts. I appreciate it, man. Any more final questions, guys, before we wrap the stream up? If you've got any final questions, super chat me if you're live. I'll definitely read it out. Or add 3 yellow circles before your question. Like for instance, this right here. That's an example if you want to ask me a question during the stream. And I'll read it and let's wrap it up. So any last questions, guys? I knew it was you, August Line. August Line says, a few of us love the spilt coffee meme. Like I said, I really should just record myself in a joking way spilling the coffee, and I just press that button and a video shows up. And also, guys, if you want to jump on board and talk amongst each other after this stream, a link to my Gilded server where you can chat if you've got a microphone amongst each other is in my About section. Some of my videos have the old link to my Discord server. Disregard the Discord link because that's been nuked. Martial arts, Oriental medicine. Thanks for the super chat. He says, no human, I'm a novice, not a monk. Oh yeah, I get it. But I was just saying, like, it's admirable that you went to a monastery to sort of participate in these kind of things that help people, like, you know, self-help, like going to silent retreats, spending time at certain retreats that sort of help you as a human being, things like that. I know you work in the medical field, you're a professional, but you're much more leaning towards the spiritual side. So yeah, I know you're not a monk. And yes, you're right. It's okay. I work and live here and caretaker. I do a lot here, teach and help humans with my medicine. Good for you. Good for you, man. All right. Last questions before we wrap it up. I'll wrap it up in about 2 to 5 minutes. So it was a really interesting question. the question of, all of these cookie cutter, one size fits all ways to be a man. This is a high value man. This isn't. So I just want guys to think about, it's not what other people say a high value man is. It's what you think you are because of what you know you need in your life. You don't need to become anything that is not naturally you. You just need to better the good parts of you that, you have proof that people like you, you have friends, things like that. Justin Brink says, I probably didn't phrase all that in a way that conveys the truth well. I have accepted who I am, and literally, women love it. It's all superficial. I don't hope for more. Having heart disease. Ah, sorry to hear, man. But look, if a person's come to terms with it, good for you. Look, I see nothing wrong. Say a person's been miserable, tried the right thing, and they've got a diagnosis, they've got 5 years to live. Would you really, if someone's in a miserable marriage or a miserable job and they say they've diagnosed with 5 years to live and they say, F it, I'm getting divorced, I'm going to indulge in the fantasy I want, I don't care. I just want to live a bit before I die. So that especially spills cold water on your face. Knowing the date of your mortality makes you feel more honest and hopefully do more honest things and live more honestly. Thanks for the super chat as well, Justin. He continues being meaning to support you, but not been putting it off. Oh, that's okay, man. I appreciate all donations and super chats. It really helps, and I'll answer every question because it really comes up in the chat stream like in full color as a box, and I don't have to find questions during the stream. That's why I suggest people put circles if they can't donate. Hey, Mr. Highway, how you going, man? Haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're doing well in South America, I think, from memory. He says, when did you realize it was time for you to graduate from the dark corners of the male self-help side of the internet? When I repeated, I realized I had everything I wanted. I did things perfectly. I had a well-paying job. I had everything I wanted. Like, there's degrees. Like, I didn't have Andrew Tate wealth structure. I didn't have the structure to that degree, but I had it in a pedestrian degree. Paid my house off. I liked my car. Had my freedom. Did whatever I wanted. Most of my time was mine. I had a girlfriend that I liked, and everything was good. But I had trouble sleeping. My mind was racing. Little things annoyed me about her in life. Like, everything was black and white. I could show it to everyone, but I knew it was for everyone else. It wasn't for me. Like, a lot of it was me, but I would have to adjust a lot of it and tune it my way to a lot. Like, say for instance, I had a certain part of my life, like the way in which I wanted to be completely open in myself with my girlfriend at the time. That was at, this style, like a 1, I had to increase it to a 10. Where I was working, I had to dial it down because that was taking too much out of my life. So I had to adjust styles to increase the color of my life. So structurally, I was being honest, but I was being cowardly because I was adjusting it to make everyone happy, and then with the scraps of that, allow myself to be happy with the residue, if that makes sense. And now it's like, I am just going to be happy with all the decisions and the structure of my life. I do not care if people aren't happy. I want them to be happy in alignment with me, because I'm not doing anything against anyone else. So it was really that point in time that I've talked about a few times before. And also, I noticed in the dark corners of the male self-help on the internet, whenever I wanted to talk, color outside the lines of, their rules, like married men are forbidden to talk about. If we talked about how women are bad, the moment I said, yeah, but that wouldn't happen if we said no to the, what are you doing? Are you simping for women? It's like, well, man, I can't even talk to you. Like, you're just in a position like some women, like, I'm innocent and men are bad. And I started to notice that I couldn't maturely talk about both sides. I couldn't talk as the third person observer, which is what I noticed when you're myopic, when it's just about what you want all the time and you don't reasonably relate to the point of view of someone else and have sympathy. It's when I started to sort of step outside and be a third person observer and saw myself in the argument or problems I'm having and say, okay, I'm annoyed, but am I objectively right? How can I stop this situation, happening over and over again? Let me stand up for what is objectively real, true, correct, or better. Not just but what I feel is better in the emotional moment where I'm just myopically looking from my perspective. And so all of those things came into being. Like I found that guys online, a lot of them were hypocritical and defensive. The moment I started to try and take courage in being able to make sense of things in a more objective way from different points of view, I wasn't allowed. People put you down. Guys were doxing other guys. Like you guys say, oh, men support each other. We're all for men. Yet all the guys being doxed in the manosphere were doxed by men who were their supposed friends in their group. It wasn't by the girl power chicks. A lot of things. It wasn't one thing, but slowly and slowly, it became clear to me in my personal life and where I was talking and trying to make sense of my my life and especially my love life and relationships online, that it was kind of being talked about on a 5-year-old level, and I needed to address my life in in an adult way, and I wasn't getting it with women, with increasingly the guys in the manosphere, and a lot of the guys that the mature guys would leave. I started to understand why they left. I was annoyed at why did you leave? I loved your content. I loved talking to you, and they just went off and did their own thing and went their own way. But I can understand their frustration. Where are we? Oh, sorry, I already read that out. All right, guys. Let's wrap this up. Countdown in 2 minutes. I'll wrap this up unless there's any more super chats or questions. If you want to ask me a question, 3 yellow circles, just like Mr. Highways. Any kind of 3 yellow circles, I don't mind. Circles, oranges, peaches, yellow smiley faces, whatever it is. Yellow's a very common emoji color. And let's wrap it up. It's we're approaching 2 hours. My sweet spot, I want to keep it between an hour to an hour and a half. I could, but I really enjoy chatting with you guys. And then once we get on a roll and people start asking interesting questions, it's the reason why I still enjoy recording conversations with guys, because I kind of learn a bit. I don't want to stay in my own echo chamber either. All right, guys, it's Sunday morning here, getting fairly hot. It was 36 degrees Celsius yesterday. Today is a bit cooler, not much, still muggy and warm. And yeah, we're definitely into summer now. So enjoy your day, guys. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video or stream. Bye. Have a good one.